Hi, and welcome to another Unity tutorial on www.unitycookie.com. In this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at the particles in Unity, one of its best features. And while it's true that Unity 3.5 will be introducing a new particle system, the current version will still work. It's still very simple yet powerful, and most importantly, once you know this version, learning the extra tricks for the Unity 3.5 particle system when it eventually comes out will be very easy, so good to get to know it here. So we can get started right away, and with this we'll take a quick look at first some quick simple particles. And then we'll move on to some of the more advanced and complex particles that Unity actually provides totally for free when you download it. And we'll look at that just after this. First, we'll start with these simpler ones, just go through how they're built and how to recreate your own. So looking at the thruster particle over here on the left, we've got sort of a thruster, maybe a glowy, hazy effect here, and then a pretty simple explosion. But starting with this thruster, let me move these out of the way. And you'll notice, just like any other game object, you can move these around, even rotate them. Very simple. Scaling does not work, but moving and rotating, you can just do the same as any other game object. No worries there. So with our thruster, let's focus this on the camera screen. Pretty simple to make. Let's go ahead and recreate it from scratch just to show how that works. So to create a particle system, you simply need to go to Game Object, Create Other, and then Particle System. And there we have the default Unity particles system that'll just pop up like that. Not much to look at, but we'll be making it into this thruster pretty quickly. So the first thing we need to change, obviously, is making this larger. Right now it's just a lot of little bitty dots, and we want a larger sort of flame or whatnot going on here. So over on the right hand side in your inspector, as always, you have the options for the particle system selected, and the first one up top is the min size and max size. So if we try something like maybe 2 by 2.25, that's pretty close. Can work with that. Maybe a little smaller. How about 1.8 by 2? And that seems good enough anyway for this. And then we need it to, let's see, first of all, or after the size, at the very bottom of the particle emitter rollout here is the ellipsoid, and this is basically where all the particle parts spawn inside of this system. So if it's at 1 by 1 by 1, that means it's within a full 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter cube, I guess. And if we put that to 0, each of those, now notice it sort of shrink down into this perfect little ball like that. Of course, you could set this to a full maybe 1 on the Y. You'll see how it now stretches out to it's spawning randomly anywhere within 1 meter along the Y, or that could be Z just as easily, or a combination of the two, or all three, of course. We'll just keep this on 0 for now. And then the next major thing is to make this sort of shoot down its length like this is here, just like that. So we'll go to the local velocity right here, and if any of these aren't showing, just remember you usually have to tick the little arrow on its left here. So local velocity, and we want it to move, if we look at it here in the editor, in the Y, downward, so negative on the Y, and the Y is always green, of course, X is red, and Z is blue. So negative on the Y, we'll make that negative 10, and that might be a bit much, maybe negative 5 for now at least. And now we see that it's going a little too far, lasting a little too long, so we need to turn its lifetime down, the lifetime of each particle as it comes out. So after the min size and max size, we have min energy and max energy, and we can set the min energy maybe to 0.25 and 0.35 perhaps. And that is obviously not enough at all, so we'll go with 1 and 1.25. Something like that. Looks pretty good. It's getting there. Alright, so the next thing to change would be the size as it progresses through its lifetime. So we see here it sort of gets smaller as it goes, which gives it a nice rocket engine look. And that's done very simply through the size grow modifier. And that is right down here under the particle animator. Again, still in the inspector here, just under this area here, the particle animator. Under size grow, we can change that to negative 0.5. And that means by the end of its lifetime, it's now going to be 1/2 of the original size. So already we're getting something pretty good, a little smaller than the other one, but that's fine. We can always size it up if we wanted to. I guess lastly, we really just want to give it some color so it doesn't look like just a white smoke effect or something. And that is also under the particle animator, where we will change the starting to ending colors. And we do that simply by clicking on each color and choosing, let's say maybe if for some reason, just for fun, we want to start out purple, change to darker, and we'll just sort of go through the colors here and set up something funky. Of course, with your own, you can go ahead and make it maybe a little more realistic if you like, but it's all just a matter of tweaking these colors to get exactly, what you want. If you wanted it to be a little more realistic, perhaps something like this. There we go. So sort of a dirty orange fire going on there. There's a couple more things we can tweak with this to make it just right. Although before that, actually, I'm sorry, on this particles here, on these particles, well, you can change the color for it. Down on the very bottom here is the alpha, and this will change how much it's visible, and it's the white bar that you can see changing right there. And it's always a good idea to make it sort of start at a low opacity and end at a very low opacity, and then, as you see by these white bars here, sort of move through that as it changes. So that way it'll fade in and fade out nicely, unless you have a different effect where it should pop right in. That's good to keep in mind there. So one other thing we can change with this is it's looking a little, I don't know, you'd say sparse with the particles. So we have the min emission and max emission, and we can change that maybe to something like 100 to 250. And now it's a much, there we go, much better looking thruster already right there. And of course we can make it 5 to 250 if we wanted it to look a little more randomized. Or the opposite direction, 200 to 250. And it's much more, more like a flame perhaps. It's probably better that way. So there we have it. Pretty simple and easy thruster there. We can see the two of them here. Easy enough to make. So we'll take a look at the other one now, and we'll keep working our way through all these other options as we go. With this one, let's move these two out of the camera view. I forgot to show you one interesting thing which you're probably noticing right now. With these particles, there's one very important checkbox right within the ellipsoid particle emitter called Simulate in World Space. And this is just like it sounds, assuming that makes any sense there, is that it'll simulate in the world based on how it's moving and such. So as I move this, of course you see that it's following it around, which creates a very cool effect. However, a lot of times you might not actually want that, such as if this is the thruster from a rocket, it should definitely not do that. It should be more like this one, which simply stays as it moves. So if you turn that off, now it stays steady no matter how we move it, and when you turn it back on, it'll move with it. So both very useful options, obviously more important in some things than others. Okay, so we'll turn that off and move these off to the side and grab our hazy, shiny glow object. So this one makes use of a couple slightly different things. Number one, we're using a very different min size and max size. So there's anywhere from very small ones to very large ones, 0.1 to 3. The energy is set so the length of time that these particles stay alive, basically the same, or actually they are exactly the same, in a long time, so they can slowly glow through their phase. This might actually be better if we make it maybe a little more random, 1.5 to 3, just like that. Although I think I like it more like that. So again, obviously something you can just tweak to whatever works for you. And then we have the min emission and max emission on a very random number, so that it's changing constantly. It looks sort of like it's shifting and glowing. Nice effect to have. We also have a bit of random velocity under here on it, and what that does is, unlike the local velocity which we saw with the particle effect, instead of going directly in one direction, it will go randomly in whatever I guess axis you have selected here. So on the X, if I put these both to 0, if I tell it to move, say 2, we can see that it's moving along the X-axis here at 2 units per second. Might be more obvious if we put it higher. There we go. Or it could be, of course, on the Y or the Z if you wanted it to be. So that's the random movement, and that's good. You'll see, of course, for the explosion, we'll be using that, and for a lot of things, we just want it to have a little bit of more of an animated look to it, so you can really see it moving around. Let's put that back on 0.1 for each of these, just to get a little bit of movement in all directions. And the other thing we've changed with this is the material that's on it. And materials are how you change particles to look like something more than just, in the case of this, where it's a simple circle that's being animated as a particle. So if you scroll down to the particle renderer below the particle animator, we have the materials slot here, and you can just drop in any material that's a particle material. So if you create one, we have a couple here that you'll see in the files that are included with this tutorial. There's a circle, a gradient, a sparkle, and a star. And any one of these work. If we open this up, go back to it, hazy glow here, and just drop in the star. Scroll down to that. See it change right away. Now it's rendering that star, or the circle. Oops. There we go. Gives it a bit of a different effect there. Or the gradient. So obviously in this case the gradient really doesn't work. Let's bring it back to the sparkle. So those are very simple to make. It's really just a black and white image, like so, and then make a material by right-clicking, create, and then a material, and just set it to be particles. And any one of these will work, but you're best off using the additive soft, or alpha blended pre-multiply. I guess any except for the vertex lit blended, and they'll all work a little bit differently for each. With the additive, it just with a particle, it will add its colors onto whatever's behind it. So if there's something white, it'll glow out against it. And if it's black, it'll really pop out more. And the opposite, if you use a multiply, the darks will, just like it sounds, multiply onto the image behind it. Kind of hard to describe, something you'll just have to play around with, but especially if you use Photoshop, maybe you'll really get that. It's the same as a multiply layer or a screen or lighten layer, where the whites will, like it sounds, glow or add onto the color of whatever's behind it, and multiply will darken it. Or if you just want it to simply be a flat color and its transparency controlled by an alpha that you create in Photoshop or GIMP or whatever image editor you're using, you can use the alpha blended pre-multiply or alpha blended. That's a good way to do it if you just want an exact color inside of your particle. So again, just additive or whatever it might be, and then drop in your texture just like that. We'll actually delete that since we don't need it. Okay, so that's that one. Again, pretty simple, just a little bit of random velocity, some pretty randomized numbers for the emission, the energy and the size, and then a custom material. Very simple. You could, of course, add in some colors in here if you'd like. Make this a little more sparkly. And go a long ways with that. So let's push that off to the side also and move on to the final simple particle, the explosion. Again, also always very, very useful. And this has one unique checkbox on it. Always good to have these checkboxes. So we have the one-shot checkbox, which, just like it sounds, makes it happen just once, and then it will destroy itself as long as you have a little further down here. Where did it go on me? Auto-destruct, this checkbox turned on. So this would be if, of course, anything you're having in your level is going to explode. You simply have this spawn, it'll do its thing, and as long as auto-destruct is turned on, it will simply delete itself from the level as soon as it's gone. Pretty handy. If we turn off one shot, you can see this is actually the particle itself, which looks a lot, well, it just looks kind of lame without that. Keep it on one shot, and you'll see how it just basically explodes one time, and then again it'll delete itself. And this one's pretty simple. It's just semi-random min size to max size. The energy is very short, of course, because we only want it to explode quickly. And a min, emission, and max that's slightly randomized, 50 to 150, and this could be even a lot more if you want it to be a more substantial explosion, or this could be a longer lifetime. It should be something like that, all depending on what your use for it is. And here now we have the random velocity set to something much higher than in the glow from before. So you see if we turn it down, you can get something a little different. Oops. There we go. A slower explosion if you need it. This is always just a matter of tweaking, to get to what looks just right for your game. And luckily, since it updates right in the scene view instantly, it's always very, very simple to just keep changing it and get exactly what you need. And then in this one, we just have some colors set up here to decide exactly how the colors cycle through as it moves. Same thing as all the others. And that's really it for some of these simple particle prefabs. We can take a look at a few more interesting ones now, since you've got certainly a mastery of particles, I'm sure. So we'll go ahead and open up the crazy scene, as it's called, within the tutorial files, if you have them open there. And here, if we hit play, you'll see a dust storm, fire, fireworks, all sorts of fun things going on. I'm going to click in the scene view and hit Control A to select them all, and watch it go crazy. So this is just, guess a bit of a pile of Unity's really neat particle prefabs that they give you to use and do whatever you'd like with. Lots of fun stuff here, and the best thing you can do, if your brain's not already overloading from staring at that, is just play around with them and see. It's all about learning the fundamentals, like as is in this tutorial, and then seeing what other people have done and things like this. Tear them apart, change things, go into whether it's the fire here, and see what happens, what's all inside of it. Change things, see what it would look like in your version in some way or whatnot. If once you know all of these, which you should now, or at least the important ones, it's no problem just to go in there and change them. And don't worry about messing up the prefabs. You can always re-import them from the Unity base folder, of course. I believe you can actually just go to Assets, Import Package, and there's all the standard packages in there that Unity gives you. And you can just choose particles right there. It'll import them all right in. So no worries about changing anything and causing any problems. If you do change it by accident and want to go back, you'll see that these turn bold, just like with any prefab, and you can click Revert, and it will go back to the way it was. So, pretty simple. Looking at a couple of these, you'll notice that for their fire, they do a smart thing, and it's actually composed of 3 separate parts, because you can't always get it done with just one bit. So they have a smoke, an outer core, and an inner core. Same thing, I believe, with the see the flame here is the same thing. Flame, a light source, so it'll actually light things up, of course. Smoke and the core. And this, I keep saying sparkles, sparticles. The sparkles here, 2 separate bits to make it look a bit better. So lots to play around and look at here. All sorts of fun things with particles. They are really a great thing to use within Unity and make your levels look so much better once you get the hang of them. Well, that's it for these. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and remember to post here if you have any questions, and see you next time.